Okay, so this is section 2.1, the coordinate system, lines and graphs, part 2. So we're going to start by talking about finding an equation from a graph. So just looking at a graph with a little bit of information and how you would find an equation. So you need to determine the necessary information from the graph, find the point or two on the line, and find the slope of the line. And then so that's going to be the rise over run. You're just going to count up units and across units, or down and across, and figure out if it's positive or negative just by looking at it. If it goes down to the right, like the one we're looking at, that has a negative slope. And then you're going to use the point slope form to come up with an equation and then convert it to the slope intercept form. Okay, so let's start with that. So the first thing we need to do is find the slope. So m equals the rise, which is up 3, over the run, which is to the left, so that's negative 5. By the way, they have it written here. The other way you could do it is you could go down 3, and that would be negative 3, and then you could go to the right. So you would go down, and then you would go to the right, and the right is positive, so that's over 5. And then they both end up being negative 3/5. Okay, so this, the slope of that is negative 3/5. And then we're going to use the point slope form. So y minus y1. So y minus, our point is 4, negative 1 right here. So y minus y1 is y minus negative 1 equals the slope, which is negative 3/5, times x minus x1, which is 4 from the point. And you just need to convert this to slope-intercept form. So we're going to have y plus 1 equals negative 3/5 minus, actually it's plus because we've got negative 3/5 and minus 4. So we're going to take those two multiplied together and we're going to get plus 12/5. Now we need to subtract 1 from both sides, so we get y equals, sorry I forgot an x here, negative 3/5 x plus 12/5. And now we need to subtract 1 from both sides, and we get negative 3/5 x. And we're going to say minus 1, and I'm going to do that in red so you can tell what I'm doing here. Minus 1 and minus 1. And remember, 1 is the same thing as 5/5. So we're subtracting 5/5 from 12/5. So we get 7/5. So plus 7/5. Okay, so stop there and look back at my work with the fractions if you didn't follow me. Okay, so next we have check it out. So try this. You need to find the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. So start with point slope form, convert it to slope-intercept form, and put your answer in the Edpuzzle. Okay, so here's the solution. You find the slope by counting up. The rise is 3 and the run is 4, just from the picture. The point is negative 1, negative 2. Plug those into this point slope form, simplify, and you should get the equation at the bottom. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about equations of horizontal and vertical lines. I've already talked about this a little bit because I got ahead of us in the last video and had to do some problems that involved them. So I just wanted to point out that when we have a horizontal line, the y doesn't change. So in this visual right here, one point is x1b and the other one is x2b. The y is the b. So b never changes and y just equals b. So y equals some number, whatever it is, wherever it crosses the y-axis. And don't make it more complicated than it is. It's very simple. And the vertical line is going to be x equals whatever number crosses the x-axis for the same reason. Okay, so let's try that. And so I'd like you to try a check it out. 2 different questions. Find the equation of the horizontal line passing through the point negative 3, negative 1, and the equation of the vertical line passing through the point 4, 2. So you should have 2 answers. All right, thanks. Okay, so the horizontal line passing through -3, -1 is going to be y equals -1, and here's a picture of it here. And passing the vertical line passing through 4, 2 is going to be x equals 4. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the general form of the equation of a line. The general form is ax plus by plus c equals 0. These generally need to be rearranged into another form so that you can figure out what's going on and so they can be useful. So down below here is an example of one, number 42, that's in the general form of the line. So we need to rearrange it into slope-intercept form in order to graph it. So the question is asking us to rewrite it and graph it. So the first thing we want to do is get the 2y by itself so that we're in y equals mx plus b. So we want it to look like that. Y equals mx plus or minus, of course, b. If it's minus, it just means b is negative. So 2y equals, we subtract 4x to both sides and we say minus 4x. We add 10 to both sides and we say plus 10. Now we're going to divide everything by 2 and I get y equals negative 2x plus 5. All right, so now with that we know that the slope is negative 2 and the y-intercept is positive 5. So from here it's fairly easy to draw. We're going to put a point at 5, so we can have a point right here, and that's the y-intercept. Oh, that's a big point. And then we're going to count down and over, down and over. So our slope is negative 2, which means negative 2 over 1. So that's negative 2 over 1. Which means negative 2 over positive 1. It also means 1 over negative 2. So you can do that either way. So you can go down, I am getting in a hurry here. And that also means, 2 over negative 1. Sorry for the misspeak there. So that means the negative can be either on the rise or the run, is what I'm trying to get at. So the rise can be up and to the left or down and to the right. So I'm going to count down 2 and to the right 1. And again, down 2 and to the right 1. I can do that a few times if I want to, and then you can draw a line through those points to make your line. Not pretty. Digital pen, hard to use. So that's what it looks like in general. So let's look at check it out. So I'd like you to try this one and see what you get. So I'd like you to both write it in slope-intercept form and then graph it, and you can just do a simple graph on your paper. Or you can try Desmos if you'd like. Okay, so this is what your answer should be. You should have an equation in slope-intercept form of y equals 3/5 x plus 3. So that should be the equation that you got. And then the slope is 3/5 and the y-intercept is b. So what you should start out by doing is marking the y-intercept here. And then you would count down 3 and to the left 5. Or you can go up 3 and to the right 5, either one. And or you can do all three just to make sure you know what you're doing, and then graph it. And this is just a copy of a graph on Desmos. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines have the same slope. So that's the definition of parallel lines. They have the same slope. Slopes of perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals. So an example of a negative reciprocal would be 2 and negative 1/2. So it's the reciprocal and the negative. The perpendicular to 4/5, for instance, would be negative 5/4. So if it's already negative, you make it positive. If it's positive, you make it negative, and you take the reciprocal. All right, so what we want to do in this first one is we want to find the line parallel to the given equation and passing through a particular point. So we have a point, we have a line, and we need to find the parallel to this passing through this point. So from this equation right here, we know that m, the slope, is 2. And we know that the point that it passes through is 0, 3. And we have a point slope form, so that's what we're going to use. We're going to say y minus y1 is 3, m is 2, times x minus x1 is 0. So we get y minus 3 equals 2x. So y equals 2x plus 3. So that is the equation of the line parallel to 2x plus 5 passing through 0, 3. So now I want to show this to you and make sure that you can see what's going on. So there is y equals 2x plus 5. That's the original line that was given. And then we get this point, 0, 3. And they want to know what line is parallel to 2x plus 5 and goes through 0, 3. And we found it to be 2x plus 3. Y equals 2x plus 3. So hopefully that helps to have a little visual. I'm going to do this a few more times just so you can see the different equations. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that. So next time we come, there won't be anything there. And let's go back to our work. All right, so next I'm going to have you find an equation of the line parallel to this given equation and passing through negative 1, 2. Write the equation in slope-intercept form, so y equals mx plus b. So you should have gotten y equals 4x plus 6 as your line that passes through negative 1, 2 and is parallel to the given line. And you can look at my work here. Pause if you'd like to. I'd like to show you what this looks like. So our original line is negative 4x plus y equals 8. So if you rearrange that, you can find the information like I showed you. So this is the original line. They want it to be parallel to that line and pass through negative 1, 2. So you get y equals 4x plus 6, which is parallel. So you can pause and stare at that if you would like. All right, so next we're going to look at perpendicular. So number 96 says we need a line perpendicular to y equals negative 3x plus 2 and passing through 1, 4. And we're going to use Desmos for this too. So this is already arranged as y equals mx plus b, so it's pretty straightforward. M equals negative 3. So the perpendicular, this is how we write perpendicular. So this means perpendicular, and this means parallel. You may have seen that in high school or middle school. So the perpendicular slope is going to be the negative reciprocal. So negative of negative 3 is positive. So it's going to be positive, and reciprocal is going to be 1/3. So the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. So the slope that we're looking for now is this slope. And the point it passes through is 1, 4. So now we're going to say our new line is y minus y1 is 4 equals, the slope is 1/3 now, not negative 3, but 1/3, times x minus x1 is 1. So we just need to work this out and put it in slope-intercept form. So we've got y minus 4 equals negative 1/3 x minus 1/3. Now we're going to add 4 to both sides. So when we add 4, that means we add 12/3. Okay, so I'm going to say y equals negative 1/3 x minus 1/3 plus 12/3. Okay, so we get y equals negative 1/3 x plus 11/3. Okay, so that should be the final equation that you get for the perpendicular line passing through 1, 4. And I'm going to show you that now. So let's get rid of those last ones, and we're going to look at the next one. looking at 96. So our original line looked like that. It was negative 3x plus 2. The point that we want it to pass through is 1, 4, right there in green. And we found the perpendicular line passing through 1, 4 was 1/3 x plus 11/3, which is the green line. Okay. All right, so next I would like you to check it out, 8. Same exact thing as what I just did. You're going to rearrange that to put it in y equals mx plus b, find the slope, find the perpendicular slope, and then find the equation that passes through 2, -1 with that perpendicular slope. Write your equation in slope-intercept form in the Edpuzzle. Okay, so you should have gotten y equals 1/2 x minus 2. If you didn't, take a look at my work here. Don't forget you need to go from finding the slope to finding the negative reciprocal because it's perpendicular. So the slope of the new line is going to be 1/2. And I wanted to show you what this looks like. So the original line is 4x plus 2y minus 3 equals 0. That's in black here. The point they want us to go through is 2, -1. And then the new equation that we came up with is 1/2 x minus 2, and it passes through the point. Scoot that over a little bit so you can see it. Okay, so going back to our work, we only have one more thing to do. I want to show you how to do one of the word problems. This one's pretty straightforward. You just have to kind of figure out what's what. So in 2011, natural gas was the source for 25% of all electricity generated. In 2016, it was the source of 34%. Write an equation for the percentage of electricity generated, y, in terms of x, the number of years since 2011. So 2011 is 0 when it comes to time, okay? And years are x. So x is the number of years, and the equation, the percentage of electricity. So let's go ahead and write that down. X equals years since 2011, and y, the thing that's dependent on that, basically, is the percentage of electricity generated by natural gas. Electricity by natural gas. I'll try to shorten that. By natural gas. Okay. So write an equation for the percentage of electricity generated. So we need to know a few things. We need to at least know a couple points or a slope or something. So let's figure out x1, y1. Okay, so we're going to call that the initial situation, and that is when time was 0, so years is 0, and what was the percentage of electricity by natural gas in that year? Well, that was 25%. Okay, so we're just going to put 25. And then we need x2 and y2. And they're saying that in 2016, which is 5 years later, so 5 years after 2011, the percentage was 34%. So the first thing we need to do is figure out what the slope is. So the slope is going to be the change in y, so 34 minus 25, over the change in x, which is 5 minus 0. So 34 minus 25 is 9, and 5 minus 0 is 5, so the slope is 9/5. So now our equation becomes y equals 9/5 x plus, now we've got to think here, what is the y-intercept? Well, a y-intercept happens when x equals 0, which is right here. So that is actually the y-intercept. They're giving us the 0 point where it crosses the y-axis. So we didn't even really have to do much work for that. B is just 25. So that equals B. Okay. So that was a pretty simple problem because they gave us the zero situation. So I'm going to go down just a little bit more here. What does the slope in this equation represent? Well, the slope represents m, so this is letter B. This was all A right here. B is, the slope represents the percent increase. The percent increase of what? The percent increase of electricity by natural gas per year. Electricity by natural gas per year. Okay, so it's almost 2% a year it goes up, 9/5. The last question is use your equation to predict the percentage of electricity generated in 2019. So in 2019, we have to say, well, how many years has it been? So we subtract 2011, and that is 8 years. So 8 years, and that equals X, the number of years since 2011. Okay, and what we're trying to find is how much electricity is generated by natural gas. So that's Y. So all we have to do is say Y equals 9/5 times X, which is 8 years, plus 25. And if you put that in your calculator, you're going to find that you get 39.4. And Y is a percent, so we have to put a unit on it, 39.4%. Okay, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching.